Yeah, hi Max. Nice to have you here again on our Aerosoft Move channel.
Hi, Bekka. Nice to be here.
The last time we met was for the Mega update, and I would love to know what has happened since then. What have you been working on?
Ah, oh, so much. So actually, since then, quite a bit has been happening. We already stated with the release of the Mega Update that we reworked 70% of the game's code. And that was actually true because we changed everything in the game besides one thing, which is our rail track system. And now for SubwaySim 2, we also redid the remaining 30%, which means we have a totally new track laying system, which does have quite a lot of benefits for you as players, and we'll get to that in a minute. And also there's a bunch of new content, actually loads of new content. So there's new vehicles, new city, new lines, new scenarios, and also way more things that add variety to the game.
Oh, cool. Also, random question, but I just thought of the fact that you guys have changed your company name. So you're now
Exactly.
Simuverse, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we've been known as Ater Anyways until mid of last year. And since then, we've rebranded to Simuverse. And I actually think that name reflects our passion for simulators way better. So I'm personally very happy about that change.
No, totally. I can also really relate to that name when I see your name on social media or somewhere. I like Simuverse. Really cool name.
Thanks.
So yeah, SubwaySim 2. I would love to know, why did you choose Berlin?
Well, first of all, why not? No,
Yeah.
seriously. There were many players asking about Berlin specifically. So when we released SubwaySim Hamburg, quite a many people obviously asked for DLCs for Hamburg, like other lines, other vehicles. But there were actually many people asking for other cities, such as Berlin. And what makes Berlin's metro network specific is there's two different parts of the network, the large profile network and the small profile network. And there's two lines on the small profile network which have a beautiful panorama of the city, starting in the heart of the city, going through famous districts, and really on an elevated railway track, which means you get to see quite a bit. And this part and this particularity about the Berlin subway, combined with the two vehicles that we chose, which is the A3L92, which is a rather old vehicle with a bit of, I'd call it challenging controls,
Hmm.
and the HK electric unit on the other side, which is more modern, easy to use. I think this combination between track, panorama, and vehicles is the main reason why we are convinced of Berlin as a city and why we decided to bring it to the game.
I would also like to know, you mentioned you've been working on Hamburg again as well. So why did you decide to include Hamburg again?
So, first of all, I personally don't think it's a good thing to drop old content. I
Perfect. Yeah.
prefer to maintain it and keep it up to date. And that's what we did with Hamburg. And we also we reworked the entire rail track system. So, as I mentioned a few minutes earlier, the code behind the railway tracks changed. And now you can't just change the code and leave all of the tracks on the map as they are. So, what we did is we actually laid every single piece of railway tracks anew, which means there's no single track that has just been copied from SubwaySim Hamburg. All of them are brand new. And that gave us the kind of the opportunity to also improve on a few other details of the map. So naturally, when the tracks change, there's also some small changes to stations, which we use to fix a few issues and to improve on the quality of the stations. And also, we actually implemented new parts of Hamburg which haven't been in the game before, such as the workshop, which is called BBA in the like that's the operational abbreviation of the workshop. It's a building with, I think, about 20 tracks, all of them functional, of course, where trains are parked and maintained. And this obviously adds quite a bit of depth to the gameplay and is one of the greatest improvements that we did to the Hamburg route. And actually, one more thing, we also took the opportunity to implement new AI traffic vehicles, such as the S-Bahn, so light rail service, which runs right next to the metro services at the Barmbek station. And all of these changes, and actually also improved road traffic, like cars and things like that, lead to a much higher or much higher immersion in the gaming experience. And I think that's what makes up the game in the end. And that's why playing Hamburg is actually going to feel different to playing the first game.
This is great, and it's absolutely not a sure thing that like a developer studio reworks like 70% for free, like in a game already, and then adds the other 30% on top while working on a like a part 2. So really props for that. I haven't seen that a lot of times. And you also mentioned Hamburg will be different, but I've also heard that Berlin will be challenging. So would you say that Berlin will be a bit more challenging than Hamburg in the end because of the older vehicles?
Tough question, actually. Both have their challenges and particularities. So, of course, the GT5 vehicle, which is the Hamburg one, is a bit easier to operate because you just have one combined lever. So if you put it forward, then the train accelerates. If you pull it backwards, then the train decelerates and brakes. So that's a bit easier compared to Berlin's A3L92 unit, which has 3 distinct levers needed just to accelerate the train, which is the brake lever, the speed selector lever, and the throttle button.
No.
So the vehicles are quite different, but there's also new challenges for the track in Hamburg. So I wouldn't say that it's like Berlin is complicated and Hamburg is easy thing.
Yeah.
Both have their plus and challenge points.
Okay, cool. I see. Awesome. Let's say I own already SubwaySim 1 and I want to buy SubwaySim 2. Do I get like a compensation for owning the first part already?
Yeah, so there's going to be a special upgrade package for everyone who actually owns SubwaySim Hamburg already. So the regular price for PC for SubwaySim 2 will be 34.99 euros. And for everyone who owns SubwaySim Hamburg already, the special upgrade package, which adds which gives you the complete game SubwaySim 2, will cost 19.99 euros, which is a discount of almost half of the entire price. And I think that's a really fair offer.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've been also talking to your community a lot regarding the price, right? And
we've been talking to the community about so many things. But yeah, also we asked some of them, how much do you think is fair as a price range? And also kind of that was our benchmark for defining the prices. And that's why I really think the prices are fair, because it's in the end what also people who have already played the game outside of our dev team would really be up to paying.
Yeah, no, definitely. When it comes to the community, I would love to know, which community feedback did you take most to heart?
So many. So like with SubwaySim Hamburg, we've received really a lot of feedback related to game optimization, but also related to lots of details in the game, like the real-time platform info screens, which show how many minutes are left until the next train is going to arrive. And what we took from that feedback is that there's really lots of people out there who want to play the metro system in every detail in their game. And in the end, that has set the bar for our own understanding of the quality that we want to reach with SubwaySim 2. So, for example, those platform info screens, they're called Daisy in Berlin. We took dozens of photos of them and recreated the fonts pixel by pixel, so that in the end, if you see a display stating next train to Warschauer Straße 2 minutes, every font has the exact correct pixels as it does in real life. And it's this attention to detail that we took from the community feedback. Oh, and of course, also the attention to detail when it comes to sound. So we really, really much improved on the sound, in particular for the Berlin vehicles, being the A3L92 and the HK. Both of them really have amazing sound now, and we'll show that in a few days as well.
Oh, cool. And what about modding?
That's also a big wish from the community. We've heard that so many times, and with SubwaySim 2, it's actually finally coming to the game. So,
cool.
and one of the backgrounds of the mega update was actually that we changed the scripting language from Blueprints and C++ to Lua. So the game is already moddable, but what has been missing for SubwaySim Hamburg is the modding tools. And now with SubwaySim 2, we also add that part. So in the end, it's a fully moddable and game, which can be extended as you like. So if you want to add city X, Y, I don't know, you're free to go. The game supports it. It also supports new vehicles, new scripts, new scenarios, and things like that. And I think that's also a big part.
Awesome.
And speaking of modding, there's actually one more thing I'd like to add. So there's a team of enthusiasts who've been working on depicting the Berlin metro network in Trains 2009, I think it was. They're called U-Bahn Sim Berlin. And we're very happy that we have a established collaboration with them. So that's also why we could recreate so many details about the Berlin network, such as the LCD display screens in the HK showing you the next stop, or the sound of the HK unit, the A3L sounds, and things like that. And I think that's what, in the end, really is the particular thing about the quality that we want to reach with SubwaySim 2.
If you want to dive deeper into the topic modding, where's the place to go? Your Discord?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll link your Discord below. Also, make sure to follow SubwaySim 2 on Steam because they post weekly dev blogs and you'll get all the infos that you need, and also pictures on Instagram. I'm gonna link all the channels below. But yeah, basically Discord, Steam, and Instagram, right? Those are your channels.
Yeah.
Spread the info. Okay, cool. You've also established an official partnership with the BVG and Hamburger Hochbahn. Could you share with us what this enables you to do or allows you to do?
Of course. So most importantly, of course, it's the formal permission to really implement all of their vehicles, all of their metro network into our game, including the official brands and logos, which obviously are quite important for the feeling of kind of how you feel when going through a metro station.
Yeah.
And beyond that, they also assisted with implementing things in the level of detail that we want to reach. So for example, in Hamburg, we had a specific opportunity to have a look at an original GT5 train at the workshop BBA ourselves. So we were
cool.
there, we had the opportunity of taking hundreds of photos, of taking audio recordings and things like that. They even did a special run for us. So the train running to a station just for us on that train. And this is really what helped us understand how the metro system works in detail and how to replicate that in a game.
This sounds also like a lot of work, a lot of hours, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, also, I would say you've become experts now because it's like part 2 already. And I think this is what makes the difference, having collaborations when it comes to a simulation. Because as you mentioned, having the real life sounds, having the vehicle in real life is something so different than if you Google it and try to find something in the internet, right? Or like you can talk to people actually and see how their day-to-day work life looks like, right? Because you've been telling me already, not in this video, but you've been telling me already that in SubwaySim 2, like one of the challenges is how do you switch positions when one person is on a subway and then the other one takes over. This is something that you probably wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have been talking to them. How does that look like? Like it's one of the difficulties in SubwaySim 2, right?
So yeah, it's actually a new feature that we introduced in one of the new game modes. We'll get to that in quite a bit. And Yeah, but really the opportunity to talk to real life metro drivers and understand how their job works, like, has really expanded our horizon, I'd say. So we know more about the metro system than we've known for SubwaySim Hamburg, and obviously that also allowed us to go way more into detail.
And I'd love to see the community tell us if they can also feel that. So once SubwaySim 2 is released, make sure to leave us your feedback. Doesn't matter if it's like Steam, Discord, Instagram. We'll read that all, and you know that Simuverse reads that, right? And they try to work on that. They try to work on as much feedback as they can and implement that. So we'll be looking forward to that. Also, as you already mentioned it, I'd like to ask what game modes will be available.
So, of course, the 3 game modes from SubwaySim Hamburg will still be around. First of all, that's the timetable mode, which allows you to ride any timetable service on the real-life network. Actually, what SubwaySim 2 now has is also a distinction between weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So every day of the week, there's the correct timetable, and you can choose from that timetable. And if you've completed the timetable right, then you can also continue with the next service that is scheduled for this particular train. So you can actually play the entire day in the life of a train, starting from when it leaves the depot early in the morning until when it arrives back in the depot late in the evening. So that's the timetable mode. That's the first of all. Second is the sandbox mode, which has previously been known as expert mode, which gives you lots of opportunities to do whatever you want to do. So whether you want to ride a service from any 2 stations on the network, with passengers, without passengers, split trains, couple trains, things like that, the sandbox mode is here to provide you with that freedom. Next up, we have scenario mode, which comes with many predefined scenarios for both Hamburg and Berlin. And of course, yes, we've also added new scenarios to Hamburg, of course. And there's going to be quite a bit of challenges. So yeah, just like scenarios that you really have to be careful while playing through. And last, there's even a brand new game mode, an entire game mode that we added for SubwaySim 2, which is called the career mode. And what the career mode does, it gives you the feeling of really being a metro driver in real life. That means you can, your shift starts at a platform. So most of the metro drivers don't start like at the beginning of the service, but somewhere in between, at some station where there's a handover. And then you wait at the platform while your train arrives, a colleague takes over, you activate the train, start your service, and then you got to be careful because whenever you arrive at a station, there's multiple factors which are actually now rewarded by XPs. So, for example, if you stop precisely at the marked spot, that gives you a bunch of extra XPs. And the goal in the end is to earn more XPs. There's even a level progression system linked to that. And all of this just gives way more depth to the gameplay. And one more thing, in career mode, there's actually also quite a bit of surprises for you. So there might be maybe incidents on the track where you need to be careful, watch out, and brake in time. For example, we have danger signals in all of the metro stations, which are so any of them that you see on the map are functional, and they may activate during any scenario or any career mode shift. And that really means you gotta be careful and be prepared for anything that could happen on the tracks. And there's also signaling malfunctions, of course.
So of course there is,
quite
right?
a bit. Yeah,
we know that.
Sure.
Cool. Awesome. What is your favorite scenario?
For me personally, it's in Berlin. We call it after the storm, where you start with the first passenger service on a day. You grab the train from one of the siding tracks, bring it to the station. The first passengers will enter, and then as you drive that service, suddenly there's a tree on the tracks. And you're like, what? Is that
What
really
the
a tree
heck?
on my tracks? So you got to stop, got to be careful. And then we really play through the workflow of how would you evacuate your players? What do you do with the train? And then you end up going on the wrong track back
Oh,
to the last station. So yeah, that's a kind of a brand new thing. We haven't had that in SubwaySim so far, and I think that's going to be really fun to play through.
so there obviously won't be any signal. You just see that tree and you have to stop, right? You
Yeah,
have
exactly.
to pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. Yeah, cool. But then also, as you mentioned, storm, so weather definitely plays a role now, right?
Exactly. It's one of the new features that we introduced with SubwaySim 2, starting with rain, fog, sun, of course, clouds. So many weather situations and even thunderstorm, which is
Oh,
also part
crazy.
of the scenarios. There are really lots of opportunities to explore.
So you feel even more like you're in Berlin, right? Even more immersion. And in the end.
Yes.
Oh.
And of course also in Hamburg, because in Hamburg it's raining all the time in real life. And you can finally play that in the game as well.
How difficult is that to implement a weather system?
So the weather system itself is not the big issue, but the big issue is to have it interact with the environment. So for example, if you have a look at the streets, our streets start to get wet when it starts raining. So they're more reflective than under other weather conditions. And depicting that change and catching the right atmosphere during every weather situation, that is the true challenge about implementing a weather system.
Okay, yeah, so probably was one of the challenges, right, when developing SubwaySim 2.
Oh, but there's been
there's
so
been
many
more
larger challenges, of
Which
course.
ones?
For me personally, that's two. First one is really being able to depict a city as complex as Berlin in so much detail that it's fun to play in the game. Because when you open up the game, you want to feel like being in Berlin. It has to be highly immersive, and wherever you are on the map, every part of the map just should look like, or should give you the feeling of really being there in real life. And adhering to that standard and that level of quality that we want to have is a big challenge. And the other thing is when it comes to vehicles, so all of the vehicles should work exactly as in real life. They should sound the same way. They should have the same functionality. They should have the same also feeling while driving
Feedback.
and so on. Yeah, and really catching all of that in real life, but also replicating this in the game was definitely the largest challenge for SubwaySim 2.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. How many people have been working on SubwaySim? 2?
That changed during specific phases of the project. So in some part, we've been up to 7 people working on the project at the same time. And yeah, so of course, in the beginning, it was more like level artists, building up the Berlin level, reworking the Hamburg level, and so on. And in the end, it was more about vehicle developers bringing all of the functionality into the game.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations to that, by the way. In general, SubwaySim 2, and you're like a young dev team. So props for that, definitely. Cool that you guys have such a cool team right now working on SubwaySim 2. And I've also heard that you've got a special event planned in Berlin. Can you give us a sneak peek?
Of course. So we're looking forward to celebrate the release of SubwaySim 2 in Berlin. There's even going to be an exclusive special service running on the metro network there.
Oh,
and
cool.
Also there will be an on-site event with some influencers reporting about it. So don't worry, you'll also receive a bit of info on what happened there.
Yeah, cool. We're looking forward to that. On YouTube then probably, or like on social media in general, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll make sure to watch an eye out on social media for that event. When is that event? Is that already official?
I'm not sure if it's official just yet, but only a few days left until then.
Okay. So shortly before the release, right?
Yeah.
The release will be on the 29th of April.
Correct.
right?
29th of April for all platforms. The
All
game will be
platforms.
released to PC, console, which means PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. All of these platforms on April 29th.
Awesome. Everything together. Perfect.
Yep.
Good news. And are there any plans already for future expansions or updates?
So ideas are, of course, we have many ideas. We also have a few plans. But what we'll work on specifically right now is the AL1 battery-powered locomotive, which we already announced for SubwaySim Hamburg. For multiple reasons, we decided to postpone that to SubwaySim 2 because, for example, there's the workshop BBA, as I mentioned earlier, which really gives you way more chances to use the vehicle in-game. And that one is planned for the next few months. And apart from that, let's see what there's else to come in the future. And since I mentioned modding earlier already, of course, there's also mods that are a work in progress already. So, for example, the crew from U-Bahn-Sim Berlin, which I mentioned earlier, they already started working on bringing the U8 into the game, Berlin's U8. And combined with one new vehicle, I think that's the F76 metro vehicle. Definitely check out our Discord to get all info about that. And they actually regularly post about progress on their mod development. So expect quite a bit of new content for SubwaySim 2.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super sure you'll keep us updated as you've been doing it with your devlogs, with your Steam posts. So we have all the safety that we need as like players, community members, because you've been always updating us, which is a super important thing I find when it comes to a title. Being part of the development process, a good community management. And I really think you guys are a good example when it comes to that. And in the end, I'd love you to sum up the highlights about SubwaySim 2 for us. There might be people who skip to the end of the video. What are your highlights? What can we expect?
So for me personally, there's 3 highlights. First of all, so much new content. Second of all, variety. So surprises in the game. And third, there's modding. There's even much more to come in the future.
Which will be great news because one of the most asked questions, modding. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Max, thank you so much for taking the time because you have a really stressful time and I appreciate that you sit here with us and give us all the information. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them below. There will be another Let's Play from Simuverse where they showcase the gameplay and we can answer them in that video. And yeah, thank you so much, Max. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks for having me on. See you.
See you. Bye.